All right, let's finish up Micro Flash Delta. Welcome everybody, I'm Jason, the creator of Team Rocket Robotics, and it's time to bring one more series on this channel to the end as I finish up my latest 3-pound combat robot, Micro Flash Delta. I put all the parts out here that I think that I need. I think so. We'll find out as things go along here. There's still a few more things I got to print up, I know, or reprint anyway, but more details on that later. Where I'm going to start first is I need my little safety LED. So I've got a pre-purchased LED thing here. You got to wire into your electronics. But to make my life a little bit easier, what I'm going to be doing is taking an extension cable for a servo and then wiring this to this guy and plugging it all into my receiver. Well, that took a lot longer than expected. I ended up moving the LED to another part in the robot because it just would fit there where it wouldn't fit before. So let's move on to actually getting the electronics back in the frame. All right, well, this desk gets messy in a hurry. The electronics are in, at least the important stuff is in place here. Let's hook it up and figure out which motor is which, because that's important for the next step. Good. All right, well, that should be it for getting this robot assembled, at least enough to test drive it. So let's make sure all the electronics are working as expected. Now, just a quick note as I'm driving around forward here with the robot, I'm obviously missing the big heavy weapon in front, so forward traction's a little shaky. Now, if I drive him backwards, he works great though. So I know everything is in working order. I just gotta get the balance sorted out because of the missing weapon. I'd say that went pretty well, so let's get the rest of the robot assembled. So there are a few electronics related things I need to finish up here. So one, I'm gonna glue the LED in place over here. I also have to take a zip tie and kind of strap all the electronics together, bundle them up. And finally, I've got to put some padding around the battery itself. In particular, there's a little bolt sticking out over here on the side to protect the battery from puncturing that way. And there is a little bit of 3D modeling left. Then I'm going to make a TPU 95 battery strap to hold this battery in place. Now let's talk about this little piece that sits right about here. Now with the Gamma version of the robot, I had a tendency to have the weapon belt come off fairly easily, so I want to fix that. And I've got this custom 3D printed part to solve that problem. Now it sits right up here very, very close to the weapon pulley. And if I hold it up like this, you can see it's got like a channel cut into it with, I guess, some little covers on top of said channel. And what this for is, this is basically a guide for the TPU 95 belt. I've got one of them sitting over here. It runs through here like this, and then therefore this end goes to the pulley. And what this does is it basically traps the belt in such a way that as long as the belt's not rubbing on any of the edges, which normally it does not, but it basically traps the belt in such a way it makes it a guide for the belt so that it cleanly goes around the weapon pulley, in theory reducing the chances of it popping off. And so far it seems to be working really well in the pre-prototype testing phase of Delta. Now with this particular version I have here, the sizing was a bit off. I got to adjust some of the proportions a bit to reduce the chances of the belt rubbing on it. Let's jump over to Blender and take care of that right now. TPU 95 printed piece is done for holding down the battery. Now let's get in the robot, and that's going to be a bit of a challenge, so I got to take some things apart to install it. Microflash is fully assembled. I've got all the components in here. He's effectively battle ready, minus the power is not on, but that's about it. Let's get him on the scale and see what he weighs in at. Let's get the scale on here. Now a US Beetleweight is 1,360 grams. Microflash Delta, fully combat ready, is clocking in at 1307. Is that? Yep, 1307. So I'm about 50 grams underweight, but I will take it. I'm happy with that. Let's take it over the box and test it out. Well, when I said a box, I meant a box. Now, for the three of you guys who watched the end of the video where I built the cajon, I made a comment that I bought something very large that was holding up the build from Microflash Delta, and I had to get it together. And this is what I was talking about. This thing here is the old arena that we used to fight in down in Livonia as part of the Michigan Combat Robot Organization. I think it's got it right there. But eventually the person who ran that event sold this arena to somebody else, and recently they wanted to see if I wanted to buy the arena, and I said sure, it's a good price, so I bought it. It's currently configured in a 4x4 box, so it's not the original 8x4 size. And it's not really up to spec for modern Beetleweights. I mean, right now it's not in a combat situation. Even how I got assembled, it's kind of just held together. I'm testing some ideas out. It's not safe for combat, but I'm going to spin up Microflash's weapon and do some very light weapon tests. It's perfectly fine for that. I'll show you in a moment here why it's no longer up to spec for Beetleweight combat robots. This is 6mm polycarbonate on the sides here, and yeah, I'll show you some damage over here that I'm pretty sure was Phantom 2. At least that's what Nick and I agreed it probably was from. But yeah, so anyway, let's get this guy in the box. And oh, we gotta tell you what we're actually doing a weapon test on. I got it sitting over here. We have the immortal enemy of 2020, the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So let's get in the box and just do a really quick weapon spin-up test to make sure everything is working as expected. Well, that was rather anticlimactic. I don't think the weapon's running quite as efficiently as it should. Let me do a few more quick tests, and then I'll take a bit of a look at it. So I just took apart the weapon shaft, and there's a little space in there left over from Microflash Gamma's design. I took that thing out because it's applying a little too much pressure to the whole weapon assembly, and now it spins by hand just much freer, much faster. Let's try it one more time and see how it works. Well, I guess that went fairly well. I mean, the weapon test did what it did. It's not a very strenuous test, but it's good enough for now. So at this point, well, I think we can call Microflash Delta done. I don't know when we're going to get to fight anytime in the near future. The whole COVID-19 thing is screwing everything up, making just events like combat robot stuff really difficult. You can maybe do it one week, can't do it the next because of lockdowns and blah, blah, blah. So who knows? At some point here, this arena, like I said, is not combat ready yet, but it would be kind of fun to get this back out in the community for ant weight fights anyway. And let me show you why I say ant weights. I've got an extra polycarbonate panel right here. So I had mentioned that the whole arena was not in usable shape. There's some parts that weren't safe, and this is the damage I was talking about. I'll show you a close-up of it in just a moment. But this spot right here, like I'm pretty sure this is from Phantom 2. It looks like a horizontal spinner hit being thrown in the air, and Phantom 2 is the only one who really does that. So this is about a 6mm thick polycarbonate panel. This groove right here is a little bit over 5mm in depth. So this hit came within less than 1mm of breaking through to outside the box. So yeah, at this point, Beetleweights are beyond the capabilities of 6mm polycarbonate, at least single layer. So this guy here, this arena, the thickest polycarbonate you get in the middle here is 6mm. So I'd probably have to find a way to bolt an extra second layer onto the outside of the box or something like that. So there would definitely be a fair bit of upgrading involved if I want to have a Beetleweight fight in an arena like this. So I guess, yeah, but as for Microflash Delta himself, like I said, he's ready to fight, but he's not a particularly well optimized design. He's over-engineered like crazy and is probably solid as a rock, he usually is, but, well, not the weapon system, but the structure. But I wouldn't mind actually going back in and redesigning portions of it and try to make it just a cleaner, easier to maintain, easier to repair robot, because right now it is not, and I could probably turn down the weight in some of the areas a little bit and make things easier and go from there. But yeah, I don't know. I'll probably do that next year, I think. At least the video-wise will be next year. I've got one more robotic combat project coming in the next few weeks here. Probably 2021. There's not too much left in 2020 at this point. So you start seeing that new series not too far in the future. So subscribe if you like that. Or if you like other types of combat robots like Battletech and Warcaster, I got plenty more combat for those two games. Plenty more content for those two games coming up as well. So with that, thank you guys all for watching. Once again, I'm Jason, the creator of Team Rocket Robotics, creator of Microflash Delta, and the Tabletop Battlefield. So have a great week.